Also pleased to welcome back a couple folks here. First of all, Mary Ellen, who is going to be administering a poll that we're going to share with you in just a moment. And of course, Carl Strandberg, who helped open the session this morning. We got Coro in the house. And I'm just wondering, Coro, we've been here since 7 o'clock this morning, folks. So that's about 10 o'clock Eastern time, helping to plan and execute the day. Cora, what do you think of some of the conversations that you've been a part of and some of the themes and so on that have bubbled to the surface?
Peter, it's been a very inspiring day. I have to say, I was moved to tears a couple of times. Well, not quite tears. I was moderating, so I have to hold those tears back. But a number of the speakers touched my heart. When they talked about their social purpose and how it drives them. We heard from Nadia Hamilton this morning from Magnus Mode, talking about the inspiration of her brother and how her purpose is to create accessibility for all, and just how she's going about doing that and how it inspires her employees, her customers, her partners, how it helps her drive her business and grow. And, also from Unilever and Lafarge and Canada Life, we just very visionary leaders, passionate about their purpose project and heartfelt in their commitment to bringing it to life. And then, I was there in another panel with looking at investors and accountants and boards, and you would think that would be a very dry and boring audience. Well, I think we had over 100 people, and the speakers were equally riveting. Also on the front lines of purpose, seeing the value proposition for their organizations, for investors, and all believing that by 2030, markets will operate with purpose at the center. And they felt very optimistic about that and called for courage. And then I went into a session with association leaders. And, again, you could think a bit of a humdrum kind of conversation. Not so. They were basically unpacking how boards of trade and chambers and business associations and other types of associations, industry professional associations, how they too can unlock their memberships to move in this direction. Now, no one is saying it's easy. No one's saying it's easy. Somebody else referred to it as a grind, but there you go. So we have all kinds of feelings that people are having about the work ahead, but it's not easy. But people all speak to the inspiration they get from their purpose, from their teams, and from their memberships and their customers and their collaborators. And that compels them to move their purpose forward. I was very inspired today.
Yeah. And Nahed this morning, I think also just gave a great little piece of advice, and that's everybody just do 3 kind acts. Just keep doing 3 kind acts. And if we keep doing that, those acts will contribute towards this social purpose economy. So it really does start with you. And that's something that you can do today. Shovel your neighbor's walk. It just takes us that much further down that whole purpose pathway. I was also really pleased to see in the business school dialogue, Maxime Lacat, talking from the perspective of a student and some of and actually that they're giving voice. They've come forward with 20 different recommendations around what they want to see in the business school curriculum across Canada, and that we also make sure that we look at that through a Canadian lens and that we don't just sort of borrow from our brethren south of the border or in Europe, that we actually kind of put a Canadian imprimatur on that. I thought that was really super valuable insights, and great to hear some younger voices at the table, and not old crusty white guys like me. And certainly that social purpose business ecosystem that Francis Edmonds from HP moderated. It was great to hear all the different perspectives from Tim at Chandos and Mike, for example, from Baker Tilly. I mean, who would have thought that a company that was in that, they've kind of identified a social purpose to help companies make this transition to and adopt a societal purpose, which is not normally what you would expect from that kind of more financially oriented business consulting sort of world. So, I think we've seen a lot of progress. It's nice today to sort of create those bonds and that connectivity between all of us. My own personal purpose is to help create community and connection around advancing social and environmental causes. And this kind of event like today is a great example of how we create that sense of connectivity and community. So with that in mind, we did have a chance, some of us on the organizing committee, to look at some of those broader themes that came out today. And Mary Ellen is going to put up a poll for you. I just want to talk through what those 12 different themes are. And we're going to ask that you vote on the top 5. So just hang off on voting just for a moment. And we're just going to talk you through these. So the first one was amplifying those social purpose heroes that are actually making change today. And I think sometimes we feel like we're operating on our own, but if we actually give voice and we place a bit of a spotlight on some of the people that are making change happen, it has a momentum building impact. Don't you think, Coro?
Yeah, it's almost job one. I have to say, everybody here attending this session who's still here today at this time, you are all probably unsung social purpose heroes. And we want to help you tell your story. We should be telling your story, all of you on the front lines of social purpose. So yes, big thumbs up to that one. Absolutely.
And then, promote purpose entrepreneurship. So, some of you work for smaller organizations, but if you're working for a larger one, this term entrepreneur is somebody who's within an organization helping to create that change. And we really do need to give those people, sort of give them wings and allow them to really, truly, be change agents within their organizations. Change doesn't just start at the top. When we promote entrepreneurship, we allow it to come from all directions. And I think that's really important. The third option is to engage diverse communities in developing strategies for social purposes. We've heard from somebody who was representing the Black Chamber of Commerce. We've heard from Indigenous voices, a whole range of voices. So it's really, I think, critical, don't you think, Coro, that we move beyond some of the more traditional voices and that we really do embrace diversity in what we're doing.
Yes, that is a very important priority. And I also heard this idea that we need to find a way to center Indigenous wisdom and knowledge in our approach to social purpose. And I think that that's a very powerful idea. How we might do that, how we can get started and find a way forward, very important.
And that's a meaningful way that we can also advance reconciliation in Canada, is by doing that. So I think that's really critical. I mentioned Maxime, but we had people from Ryerson and Concordia and SFU, for example, from a business school perspective. And one thing that's bubbled to the surface is reforming that business school education to really put social purpose at the center of what's happening. And the dean from Ryerson talked about, they've hired 35 people, new professors, and they're letting them run with this agenda, and it's creating incredible change. So I think that's really important. You
missed one though. Right above it, the business case.
Oh, I'm sorry. Developing a business.
Maybe that's a bit of a sleeper for you, Peter. So you kind of run roughshod over it. Who needs a business case anyways? But
it is important. It is important. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah. Did you want to say anything about that?
Well, just the Social Purpose Institute has a business case on its website, a short version and a very long version, and it's an easy grab. But I think what's being looked for here is a very compelling business case, perhaps some longitudinal research that looks at the performance of social purpose companies over time, and to bring that to the attention of business leaders, boards, and investors.
And I think, stories we hear time and time again, stories are really what capture people. And I think building some great stories of organizations that have made that transition, that have seen great success, that have inspired everybody from employees to shareholders, stakeholders, you name it, I think is part of building that more compelling business case. Now, I know, Coro, that you're somebody who really is focused also on metrics and wanting to measure what's the delta. Are we nudging that peanut across the table? So developing a framework to measure social purpose and the associated metrics, I think, is another important point that came out of today's conversation. Don't you agree?
Yes, metrics, it's very complicated, very confounding, and they're not on the shelf. They're not waiting to be picked up by social purpose companies. So accountants can help with that, and other organizations, impact investors, are looking at metrics as well, but needing to have them will be very necessary, again, for boards, leaders, people in the organization, investors, and stakeholders, just really understand what the progress is. Very necessary.
And of course, business and professional associations, we've had the Canadian Manufacturers, and we've had Canadian Society of Association Executives, and a whole range of voices at the table. It's really critical, I think, that we look to those groups to also, because they touch a broad membership, right? So you might inspire one association which has 1,000 members, and suddenly that's part of that really critical building of momentum. And I think linked to this idea of metrics is this creating a purpose reporting framework. I think we've all, those of us who've been working in the ESG field, have been seeing the evolution of reporting over the last little while. We have a few experts who are attending, I know, in that space, but there still isn't quite that purpose reporting framework out there, is there?
No, we have ESG reporting and we have conventional reporting, financial reporting, but we are lacking guidance to companies to really know how to disclose their purpose, performance, and that is lacking.
Yeah, for sure. And then, providing this social purpose education to investment managers, we are seeing more interest from the investment community in purpose, looking for that in organizations, but there still are lots of investment managers that are caught in that old kind of paradigm of shareholder supremacy and not looking at the broader stakeholder approach. So I think that's a really critical piece of the puzzle here. And then, there is a certain amount of purpose washing that still happens out there. Organizations that talk about being purpose driven, but haven't really embedded it in the strategy of their organization. And I think that's, challenging business that have a social purpose to really embed it in all aspects of the employee experience, their procurement, their stakeholder relationships, and so on, I think is a really critical next step in this.
And maybe if I could just speak on that one. There are many businesses that have a purpose on their website, if you will. But if you actually go look at their corporate strategy, if you look at their balanced scorecard, you don't see evidence that they're actually implementing their purpose. So how do you bridge the gap, the say-do gap that we see here, and help those businesses that have a purpose with, roadmaps to have them actually implement their purpose?
Yeah, and then the last two themes, so there's 12 here that in total, is to build that momentum for a social purpose movement. And, movements sometimes start slowly, but the ones that are successful really sustain energy over the long term. And so that requires new energy to be brought in, that requires the wins, the celebration, some of the other aspects that we've talked about. So building that momentum is something that came up over and over again today. And something, I think that's really important as well, and I touched on that earlier, is this notion of Canadianizing the purpose narrative. I think many times we just borrow what we hear perhaps elsewhere in the world, but we are a unique country. We have a unique set of values in many respects. We're a bridge between the United States and Europe in terms of how we conduct ourselves and what we value as a company. And we need to make sure that that purpose narrative really reflects who we are as a country, don't you think?
Yeah. We're starting to be influenced by what's going on in other jurisdictions. And Canadian has something unique to offer. Canada does. And so if we can find a way to unpack our own purpose story and use that as a model for other countries, that would be time well spent.
So we want to give you now a moment or two. Those of you, we've got about 81 people here in the room. If you could have a look at that list, you can place a check mark beside 5 of them. And then when you're done, scroll the bottom and hit the green submit button. And then we should see the results in real time bubble to the surface. So on your marks, get set, go, vote. Tell us which 5 of these themes speak most to you. And I'll meanwhile just check in the chat, see what people are saying. Yeah, that submit button is at the very bottom of the page, by the way. If you scroll down, you'll find it there. It's a big, bright green button.
And for you to understand as you're making your submission here, these priorities from today will be combined with your priorities that you set tomorrow. And they will flow into the updating of the purpose economy roadmap for Canada that we've developed, which we call version 1.0. So what we're trying to do here today is get your top thoughts after listening in on these conversations today to prioritize for tomorrow, reprioritize, a good strategic planning session here, and use that to inform the roadmap.
Okay, so Mary Ellen, are you starting to see these results come in on your end? Okay, just saying, give her a minute or two. Yeah, so Liz says the submit button may be hidden by the speaker graphics depending on your screen setup. Thank you for that tip. So you might need to move our faces around and you'll find that green button underneath, but I assure you it is there. Okay, so now we're starting to see some of the results bubble to the surface here. Let's see, let's just give this a second to fully populate. We've got somewhere around 38 people looking for that. Oh, you'll be pleased to know, Carl, people are really looking for those metrics. And the reporting
it's all about the metrics.
And the reporting framework, which I think is a complementary piece of that. We're also looking at reforming business school education. That's bubbling to the surface here. And pleased to see also folks talking about engaging diverse communities in developing strategies for social purpose, because I think we all know that we need to do better in that regard. And we did make great strides in ensuring that we had more diverse voices in this conference as well. Looking at challenging businesses that have a social purpose to embed it in strategy, which is what you talked about, Coral. Sometimes it's just words on a website or a wall, but not really embedded in the organization.
Do you know, here's something I want to say.
Sure.
First, I should check, Mary Ellen. Are these the results? Or are they still coming in? These are them. Okay. So then the other point that I would make, Peter, is the diversity of answers. Like, people are
do all these things.
Yeah, like some kind of bubbled up a little bit, but not like orders of we're not like at 75% or something like that. So very interesting and reflective to me of the diverse membership, the diverse audience that we have, who have different priorities based on their organization is how I'm going to see it, based on their outlook on the world. So to be honest, I kind of like that. It will be hard to focus resources around getting a few things done, but we'll take a look tomorrow and see, how some of these might change.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, you've just brought up tomorrow, and I'm going to be handing over the reins to you tomorrow, Coro, to help host us through the day. Now, what are some highlights that you think people can expect? What can we tantalize them with and let them dream about tonight before they come back tomorrow?
All right. Well, first, I think I'm going to have them all click out the poll if that's what they see, because that's what I see. There's a little X up at the top corner. There we go. Good. Okay. So how to engage. Okay. So today we were spending our time talking about how to engage primarily business on the path to purpose. And tomorrow we'll be looking at who and how to engage the social purpose ecosystem, those who are around the business in what you might call the social purpose landscape. So how to organize the social purpose landscape to bring about the kinds of results that we were just looking for from the poll. We have tomorrow over 30 luminaries. They will be helping us uncover game-changing strategies and actions to transform the role of business in society. It's really a fantastic lineup tomorrow. So please don't be late, as we'll be kicking off at 8 a.m. Pacific or 11 a.m. Eastern with some international insights. Now, of course, I'm a bit chagrined that we're starting off tomorrow with international insights when we were told today, let's Canadianize the purpose narrative. But anyways, we're going to kick it off hearing from some international folks to see what they're up to. Two global projects that I think it would be great for everybody to hear about if they haven't, or to be caught up on. And then they will be sharing their audacious goals to do what? Their audacious goals to design an economy that works for people and the planet. Meaning to say, we are part of a global enterprise to redefine the purpose of the economy. And just that we're having those kind of conversations in 2021 as we hopefully emerge out of the pandemic. We will be building upon their ideas in sessions that are focused on how to design the ecosystem and activate it to create an economy that works, how to design and activate the ecosystem to build the social purpose support landscape that I was mentioning. Including tomorrow, we'll be having a session on the role of government to mainstream purpose in business. You didn't see it prioritized today because these will be discussions we'll be having tomorrow. And of course, we have social purpose office hours again. That was a very popular feature today, where if you want to learn about some tips and tricks to implement your social purpose, you will go to that session. And a little bit more of an international flair. We have International Social Purpose Office Hours, where Phil Preston, who is a social purpose expert from Australia, will be providing a critique of Canadian corporate purposes that he thinks don't go far enough. So we can join him tomorrow. And he has started what he calls a kangaroo versus the maple leaf challenge. That should be a lot of fun. So there's tons ahead and a continued opportunity to connect and network. I hope you've been taking advantage of the networking lounges and birds of a feather features to connect with people. And also we'll be spending our time continuing the project to co-create the Purpose Economy Roadmap together.
Great. Thank you very much, Coro. And just as we wrap up the formal part of today, I want to give some thanks again to Coast Capital, who's our presenting sponsor, along with Junction and BCLC, a company that I happen to work for. We also want to thank Lafarge Canada and Libro Credit Union for presenting sessions. Just a reminder, as Coro said, we start again tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific or 11 a.m. Eastern. And we encourage you just to hang around now. Even if you got some emails and other things to catch up on, you can still enjoy the musical stylings of DJ Lee, along with his able assistant MC Crystal, who are going to have prizes, dancing, and unique surprises that you don't want to miss. So we thought we would just end this on a high note. So over to you, DJ Lee, to bring it on home.